Week 6 of fantasy hockey is almost here, and what better way is it to prepare for your week than giving you a list of players that I think you should be adding. These are going to be between deep league players all the way to some of those shallower leagues where I think you should be looking to add some of these guys. Hopefully your team is doing good in the early going so far in fantasy hockey. I've definitely had some mixed results throughout my leagues, but still ultimately the results have been pretty positive. So let me know in the comment section below how your team's doing so far, some of your over and underperformers, and we'll chat on what to do moving forward to either help your team or help sustain a solid record. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. Let's skip all the fluffy stuff and just jump right into the forward ads. And starting us off is Gabe Vilardi, who was on the must ads just last week. One of my favorite sleepers going into this season. This Winnipeg Jets team is one of the best teams in the NHL right now. I think they've actually tied a record for most wins to start a season through the first 13 games. It's kind of crazy to see how good they actually are as a team. And Gabe Vilardi has been a focal point of their offense, especially as of late. Now, he did have a really slow start to the season, and I had a lot of conviction on him going into this season. And the slow start, he wasn't shooting the puck a lot. He wasn't really putting up points. But the deployment was there. He was still playing line one. He was still playing power play one. The minutes were really good, and we're starting to see the outcome of this. So he's averaging 18:36 average time on ice, line one, power play one, 12 points, 4 points on the power play, and 29 shots on goal through the start of the season. It's crazy to see that he's under 50% roster for a guy that's good on pace right now for over 30 goals, over 60 points. He's going to be a guy you want to be rostering for the long term of your team. Now, he does have some injury history, and I understand there is some risk there, but hopefully your league has IR or IR plus spots, and you can just drop him there if he ends up getting injured. But if Vilardi plays a full 82 this season on line one, power play one, with how good the Jets are looking right now, he should have long-term value for your teams. Rickard Rakell is an interesting story. With Rust getting injured, Rakell was moved back up to the top line with Crosby. Rust did return on Friday night, and it does look like Rakell is going to sustain a spot alongside Crosby and Malkin on the top line, and he's sustaining a spot on the top power play unit. It looks like they're going back to the 4 forward rotation with Erik Karlsson quarterbacking the top power play unit. And for me, as long as Rakell continues to skate on the top line, on the top power play unit, there's really they don't have much depth on that team, and Rakell needs to really pick his socks up for them to become just a contender in any sense. I don't think they are a contender, but Rakell needs to be producing the way he can for them to be a contending team. And with him skating line one, power play one, I have a ton of interest. His minutes are scaling up very quickly, with multiple games playing well over 20 minutes per night, 6 goals, 36 shots on goal, 23 hits, 12 blocks to the start. And his peripherals have been very good. His goal scoring has been good, and his deployment, and his roster percentage is slowly going to start to creep up to that 50% very soon. Igor Sharangovich, center right wing eligible, just 26% rostered, started the season on the injured list. He's played just 7 games so far this season, but he has moved back into his line one, power play one role, exactly what we saw back in 2023-2024, where he scored 31 goals and 59 points on a Calgary Flames team that wasn't very competitive. Now, they have been good to start the season, but I don't think they're going to be that competitive for the rest of the year. But this is still good for Sharangovich, who doesn't really have much competition and should continue to skate on the top line, top power play unit, just like he did last season. His minutes are creeping up, 18:48. He played over 20 minutes in his last game, and he does have just 2 goals on the season. So it's a good time to get in on Sharangovich early, who does have flexibility in the position, and he was a former 30-goal scorer just last season. Troy Terry, now this Anaheim Ducks team, it feels like there's value continuing to pop up each and every game, each and every week. There's just new value. Now with Terry here, the interest I have, and you know I always say it, is just you're able to roster a guy under 25% roster that's going to be skating line one, power play one, and that's not going to change very much. He is one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player on the Ducks. Scored 37 goals just a few years ago. Skating under 18 minutes per night, has 10 points to the start of the season, 4 points on the power play, and 27 shots on goal. The shot rate is continuing to creep up alongside the minutes. Those are 2 key indicators for players that are going to be breaking out. So I like Terry here. I think in 14 team leagues, you can look to add Terry. And then if you need a speculative add in your 12 team leagues, he becomes an interesting add. Now, Fabian Zetterlund was a guy I was big on in the preseason. I drafted him in the Fantasy Puck Patreon League. dual position eligible, and he's a guy I just can't seem to get off my roster right now. He's been extremely strong. We're starting to see that roster percentage begin to creep up. He was at about 10% to start the year. It's doubled. He's now at 20%. He's currently skating line 2 and on power play 2. I would love to see better deployment. I'm fine with line 2, but power play 1 would be a lot better for Zetterlund. But still skating about 17 minutes per night, and he's currently on pace for 33 goals, 164 shots, 185 hits, and 66 blocks. Very, very good peripherals for a depth guy on your roster. Someone I think you should be adding. There's really no competition, similar to the Anaheim Ducks and the Calgary Flames. There's really no competition up front, meaning Zetterlund should be solidified into that line 2 top 6 role on the second power play unit. As long as we continue to see the peripherals and the shots and hits go up, he's going to be having a ton of value for the rest of the season. So I love Zetterlund here, and I definitely think he should be a priority add for your team. Moving on to more deeper league forward adds, we have Jack Roslovic of the Carolina Hurricanes. Me and my friends joke that he is like the best real life player. We went to go see a game, Red Wings versus Columbus, and Roslovic had a hat trick and he looked super good. So it's good to see that he's starting to perform the way we saw him in person with the Carolina Hurricanes. He's currently skating on the top line with Sebastian Aho and on the second power play unit. Now the minutes are a little bit worrisome, and this is kind of what happens in the Carolina Hurricanes system, where they just spread their minutes out between all 4 lines. Like, we don't even see their big players playing well over 21 minutes, just like we see with like the Florida Panthers with Barkov or McDavid, Draisaitl. Their big players usually play about 17-18 minutes per night. So the minutes are a bit concerning with Roslovic, and I would say we may see some regression. But so far to the start of the season, he's 5% roster, and he has 9 goals and 33 shots on goal on a very, very strong goal pace. And as long as he continues to skate on that top line, I do have interest in him. I do think the goal scoring will eventually come down. And for those who understand the reference, Jack Roslovic is an early Cy Young candidate with 9 goals and I think 1 assist to start the season. It's a baseball reference for wins versus losses in baseball, very similar to goals versus assists, where he has 9 goals, 1 assist. But a very good start to the season for Roslovic here, and I definitely have some interest in those 14+ team leagues. Anders Lee is someone I've been shouting out for the last couple of weeks. We really haven't seen the goal and assist production like we wanted to see so far to start the season, but he has been moved up to a line 1 power play 1 role, especially with Barzal out of the lineup right now and Duclair, skating 16-24 per night with 7 points. And his 49 shots on goal give him the number 1 shot rate per 60 in the NHL right now at just under 14 shots per 60. So this is really interesting, especially for me, because I'm someone who really values shots on goal. I do think it leads to goal scoring, and with Anders Lee, he's a guy who parks himself in front of the net and gets all those high danger chances, very similar to like Brady Tkachuk or Chris Kreider. So a lot of interest in Lee. I do think we're going to start to see a little bit better production in the next couple of weeks, as he continues to shoot the puck and get much better deployment on the top line and the top power play unit. With Charlie Coyle here, Boston's been shuffling their lineups a ton, so at this point he may be line 2, he may be moved up to line 3. We don't really know what's happening, but as of the most recent update, he was skated on the second line in the game I watched, and he is back on the top power play unit. And they moved down Zacha to power play 2 at just 11% rostered. Bruins power play has not got it going at all, but they currently lead the league in power play opportunities, and that's a little bit beneficial for Charlie Coyle, who will likely be skating about 70% start share on the top power play unit. So his minutes are good at 18 per night, 21 shots on goal and 27 hits. The point production is not there so far, but in those deeper leagues, if you're looking for a guy with a good blend of shots and hits, as well as the upside to play on a top power play unit, Charlie Coyle is a very interesting player right now. Now, in those 14 to 16 team leagues, Jason Zucker may be one of the only players available that is currently on a top power play unit, skating line 2, power play 1, 15-24 average time on ice. Has been very good to start the season with 10 points, 4 points on the power play. Now, the peripherals are a little bit lacking with just 18 shots on goal, but this Buffalo Sabres power play started off very cold and they've been heating up as of recent, and I definitely want some shares in Jason Zucker in some of those deeper leagues with the opportunity to be skating a top 6 power play 1 role. Now, I feel like every video, like what's a video that I'm making for must-have players without a Columbus Blue Jackets player? And here it is, Cole Sillinger, a young player who basically broke out 2 years ago, then was in the minors. It was really interesting, the way they were kind of deploying him. But right now, with all of the injuries to the lineup, Cole Sillinger is back on the top line and the top power play unit with center. And I have left wing in asterisk there because he is skating on the left wing. So it's just a matter of time before Yahoo begins to update that. But at just 2% roster, you're getting a guy with the best possible deployment on a team that has been actually pretty good offensively. 18 minutes average time on ice with 8 points, 24 shots, and 14 hits. Again, just like Charlie Coyle, a very good blend of shots and hits. So if he's not producing offensively, you're still getting the shots and hits. And as long as he continues to see big minutes and a very good deployment, I have a lot of interest in Sillinger in some of those deeper leagues. You may be able to find him in 16 plus team leagues at just 2% rostered. I will say this has probably been one of the most difficult weeks in terms of finding value on defense for you to add that's not a repeat player. I try to repeat some because if their ownership doesn't go up and I still have interest, I'm going to include them. You can see the two players on here in Edvinsson and Zellweger, but Alex Vlasic is definitely interesting. I'm seeing him starting to get added in a lot of my competitive leagues right now. He's just 10% rostered. He's currently skating on the top pair. He did flirt with some time on the top power play unit, but that was quickly changed back to Seth Jones, which to me makes a lot of sense. But as long as he continues to play these massive minutes right now with 23 minutes average time on ice, he has 7 points and 40 blocks in the early going. I'm going to have a lot of interest, especially if your league values blocks. I do find sometimes that teams go very heavy, or fantasy managers go very heavy on point getting defensemen, and they lack week to week in their peripheral category. So if you're looking for a defenseman that will put up a bunch of blocks for you each and every game, Vlasic has a ton of interest. He's playing huge minutes right now, and he's definitely someone that you should look to add. Now, Simon Edvinsson here, he was probably one of the most highly touted defenseman prospects in the NHL going into this season. Just 4% rostered. He's currently skating on the top pair with Moritz Seider. The minutes in the last 6 games, he skated at least over 20 minutes. So we're starting to see a little bit more trust from Derek Lalonde in Detroit, and that's benefiting Simon Edvinsson, whose minutes have scaled up to 21-20 average time on ice. He's been a peripheral machine with 15 shots, 14 hits, and 28 blocks. He's a threat for a triple 100 category coverage this season, which means 100 shots, 100 hits, and at least 100 blocks. And those defensemen are kind of rare to come by. So very interested here in Simon Edvinsson in those deep leagues if you're looking for peripherals. I'm still surprised to see that Olen Zellweger's ownership is not going up at all. I'm very upset that he's not available in the Fantasy Puck Patreon League, because this is a guy I want to be rostering who's currently back. He's moved up to the top pair, and he's on the top power play unit. His minutes are scaling up very fast. He's at 19:30 average time on ice with 4 points, 1 point on the power play, 28 shots on goal, and he currently has the 7th best shot rate for defensemen. So as we start to see these minutes continue to scale up, we're going to start seeing those shots on goal continue to scale up. So it's a very good sighting so far for Zellweger, who seems to have little to no competition on the blue line, especially on the top power play unit. So I have a lot of interest from Zellweger, who's one of the last power play 1 defensemen that will be available on your free agency that you can definitely look to scoop up. Now, Pulock may be a little bit of an oddball pick here. The biggest thing for me is he had back-to-back games where he skated 29 minutes. So it looks like with some of the injuries on the back end, I know Adam Pelech is hurt right now. It looks like Pulock is going to be eating a ton of minutes alongside Adam Dobson on the top pair. These minutes are really good, and Pulock historically is a very strong peripheral defenseman. So through the start of the season, just 4 points, but 19 shots on goal, 17 hits, and 26 blocks. If Simon Edvinsson's not available, I would look to add Pulock, who should help contribute to all of your categories. And as long as he continues to play these huge minutes, the peripherals will come, and so will the points. Lastly, we have Timothy Liljegren. Leafs fans, you may not be too happy he was traded for Matt Benning, but what we've seen so far since he started with the San Jose Sharks, there's been some weird things going on with Jake Wallman right now. He was scratched. It was a unrelated hockey injury, or unrelated hockey scratch, and then he was injured with an upper body injury the next night. So I don't really know what's happening with Jake Wallman, but for right now, Timothy Liljegren has moved up to the top power play unit since joining the San Jose Sharks. Played 19 minutes in his first game and then followed that up with 21 minutes in the last night's game. I'm very interested to see what the outcome with Timothy Liljegren is. They really have no help on their back end. Between him and Mario Ferrero, they're really the only competent defenseman there right now with Jake Wallman out. So maybe we see these minutes start to scale up. Historically, he's a pretty good peripheral defenseman, especially in the block category. So I definitely have some interest. But as long as he skate on the top power play unit, I have some interest. I would only look to be adding him in 14 plus team leagues if you're desperate for defensemen. Jumping over to the final part of the video is the goalie ads. There's not a lot of goalies that I'm interested in right now on the waiver wire. It seems like all the good value goalies are now owned. Now, we've seen some blunder with Lucas Dostal, especially in the last 3 games. So that's going to be interesting to see. I don't think Reimer's going to become an ad at any point. But the first goalie I want to talk about here is Anton Forsberg of the Ottawa Senators. It looks like he's splitting time with Ullmark. They are pretty much dead even in games played. And for right now, Anton Forsberg's been the better goalie. Ullmark sitting under a 900 save percentage, when with Anton Forsberg at a 265 goals against average and a 910 save percentage with 2 shutouts to start the season. I'm really interested to see what the deployment between the two goaltenders are. I know that Ullmark has been dealing with some injury on and off since the start of the season, and maybe that's continuing to linger, and maybe Forsberg will continue to split starts with him. But have some interest here at 12% rostered. If you're in deeper leagues, definitely looking to add Forsberg. Now, the only issue I have is the Senators tend to give up a lot of chances and a lot of goals. So maybe we start to see this goals against and save percentage start to regress back to the mean a little bit. But for right now, I definitely still have some interest. With Elvis Merzlikins, it's kind of the same thing as the Ottawa Senators, where they are not very strong defensive team. But the biggest thing with these two teams is that they give up a lot of volume. So if you do play in points leagues or leagues that count saves, both of these goalies have quite a bit of value, especially Merzlikins, who seems to be the clear starter over Daniil Tarasov. He has very, very good volume with 27 saves per game to start the season, a 910 save percentage, and a 269 goals against average. A decent amount of interest here. Again, I was only looking to be rostered in deeper leagues. Lastly, this is going to be a little bit of an interesting take, but Tristan Jarry of the Pittsburgh Penguins was sent down to the AHL after struggling mightily to start the season. Joel Blomqvist actually looked pretty good last night against the Leafs. But with Tristan Jarry here, something to keep an eye on. If you have an NA spot on your team, you may be able to add him and stash him in your NA spot. Through 4 games in the minors right now, a 169 goals against average and a 946 save percentage. So hopefully he's regaining some of that confidence. Hopefully he's getting back into better shape for the Pittsburgh Penguins. If he does get recalled, I do think he will be a priority add, just with the upside of him taking over the starting reins again, who he has been the starting goalie for the last 3-4 years for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So just keep an eye on these numbers. A 169 goals against and a 946 save percentage tells me that there's no reason for him to be in the minors anymore, and they may see some sort of change in the next couple of weeks, and you want to be able to get in early, especially if you're able to stash him on your NA. That will do it for the week 6 must add players video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for all the support so far this season, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.